Of Hempstone Heritage, great book all about the history of hemp right here in Pennsylvania, and he started Pennsylvania Hempland Security, and Mr. Les Spark.
All right, I got it.
All right, thanks for coming, everybody. Joe's one of the 3 High Times Freedom Fighters of the month. Congratulations. On May 22nd, 1933, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania passed legislation banning cannabis in the Keystone State. Pennsylvania acted a full 4 years before the national prohibition of cannabis was enacted on August 2nd, 1937. The legislators in Pennsylvania were careful not to call it cannabis, though. The people of Lancaster County and throughout the Commonwealth would not have been worked up about cannabis. Cannabis was used as medicine and had been for thousands of years. Old farm women used to smoke it in corncob pipes. One company over in Hemp Township in York County manufactured a product called cop syrup made from locally grown highly potent cannabis. Charlie Smithgall's grandfather used to sell cannabis tinctures, extracts, and various medicines in the famous and historic Smithgall's Pharmacy. Charlie, of course, was the former mayor of Lancaster City, a Civil War enthusiast known for firing off his own cannons quite frequently. During alcohol prohibition, which lasted from 1920 to 1933, the use of cannabis became quite popular in Lancaster and York counties. Even though most local authorities did enforce alcohol prohibition, a person was still facing arrest and jail time for being involved in the sale, distribution, or consumption of alcohol by the federal authorities. When federal agents raided the Owls Club, in which my great-grandfather was a bartender, they were shocked at how easy it was to get a drink in Ephrata. During this whole time, of course, there were 0 penalties for smoking cannabis. And this is one reason why there was a major increase in cannabis use during the years of alcohol prohibition. When Pennsylvania outlawed cannabis, they were also careful not to call it hemp. People in Lancaster County and Pennsylvania could not be expected to be worked up about hemp. Why should they? Old Order Amish and Mennonites were still growing hemp on their farms in the 1930s. They used the seeds for livestock and feed and still made homemade rope. In fact, hemp was common in the rural parts and county of our state in the 1930s. Old-timers tell me they remember when they were boys that hemp used to grow wild all down the railroad tracks through Ephrata. The remnants of the old historic hemp industry here. Between the years of 1720 and 1870, there were over 100 water-powered mills for processing hemp fiber just in Lancaster County, and there were dozens more hemp mills in all the surrounding counties. There are almost as many oil mills for processing oil pressed from the many tons of excess hemp seed, a byproduct of the enormous harvest of hemp grown for fiber. In the 1930s, many Lancaster County residents told stories of when their grandfathers used to run the hemp mills, or their boyhoods when they helped harvest the hemp. So no, Pennsylvania cannot be worked up about hemp. No way! They called it marijuana. People around here didn't know what marijuana means. If they heard it at all, it was only in the context of reefer madness. In 1933, however, the nation's 13-year failed experiment with alcohol prohibition came to an end. Pennsylvania saw the writing on the wall, so 5 months before the end of alcohol prohibition, they quickly enacted cannabis and hemp prohibition. A few days ago, I spotted this item in the Lancaster Intelligencer Journal, which Connie Guy already made mention of, but I'm going to repeat it. This was printed 75 years ago. It's Reefer Madness. The Intelligencer Journal reported on the increasing use of marijuana in Lancaster. Officials with the U.S. Bureau of Narcotics met with Governor George Earl and listed Lancaster among the Pennsylvania cities where marijuana use was well known. According to the intel, use of marijuana cigarettes in Lancaster is known to local police and has been under investigation for the past 2 months. Police Commissioner Albert Carlson said Friday, quote, "While traffic in reefers has not become large here, he said every effort is being made to stop the source of supply and prevent the possibility of the spread of the habit in Lancaster." That was printed April 30th, 1938. From news accounts of that day, we know that this investigation was being carried out and arrests were indeed being made, because 2 months later, on July 5th, 1938, the first person that we know of to be arrested for, quote, marijuana in Lancaster County was an 81-year-old man named Enos Schaefer. Enos lived on the New Holland Pike, a few blocks from here, over by Dolly's Laundromat near the McCaskey High School. Informants tipped off the police that Enos was growing the weed on his property, and the cops got on it right away, making the old man the main focus of their investigation into the pot problem of Lancaster. On July 5th, 1938, undercover agents went to Schaefer's property and found a long strip of hemp grown along his garden. Enos was not there, so the agents started ripping up the plants out of the ground. When they had torn up about half the plants, they got the word that Enos was spotted in a local tavern, so they went out to get him. When they found him, they said, "Are you Enos Schaefer?" Enos said, "Well, yeah, that's me." They told him, "We just saw someone making away with all your plants." He said, "Really?" He said, "Follow me." So Enos was much alarmed at this news and followed the undercover agents to his garden. When they got there, they asked him, "Is this your property?" He said, "Yeah." And they asked him, "Are these your plants?" And he answered yes, and he was immediately arrested and taken to the Lancaster County Prison. Enos admitted that he was growing the plants, but he said he had no idea that it was illegal. As far as old man Schaefer was concerned, he was growing hemp, and he was growing it for seeds for his chickens to eat. But that one old hemp farmer, Enos Schaefer, became the first victim in Lancaster County to these terrible, insane, and immoral laws. Since then, the police have waged a campaign of terror on the citizens of Pennsylvania, arresting 250,000 Pennsylvanians in the last decade and promising to arrest 250,000 more over the next decade at a cost of $3.5 billion. They have not seen a reduction in the numbers of Pennsylvanians using cannabis one bit. And in fact, despite all of their brutal tactics, money spent, 80 years of war, they have seen a continued increase of numbers of people using this plant. The only thing they have been effective at is stopping sick people from using it as medicine and stopping farmers from growing hemp as an industrial plant. One thing my mind dwells on sometimes are the numbers. We know that in the state of Pennsylvania there are more than 1 million people who smoke cannabis every year. We currently arrest 25,000 people a year for cannabis offenses at a cost of nearly $350 million. Now come on. Any fool can plainly see that you can never stop 1 million people by arresting 25,000. The people maintaining the status quo are basically defending this asinine and backwards policy that is so obviously doomed to failure on paper and in real life. I was a tank crewman in the Marines. While true, I was not a general or any other extraordinary master or tactician, I did, however, rise to the high and lofty ranks of Lance Corporal. And I can tell you that what I see is just not going to work and cannot work. So what would have to be done? How about they double their efforts, say arrest 50,000 Pennsylvanians at a cost of $700 million a year? They might be able to pull that off for a while, but still the same problem. You've got over 1 million people still smoking cannabis in the state, even after you arrest 50,000 people. So no, that won't do either. Perhaps a bold proposal then. How about arrest 100,000 Pennsylvanians at a cost of $1.5 billion a year? A 10-year campaign that will arrest 1 million Pennsylvanians at a cost of just $10.5 billion. That might send a strong message, and then you would probably get that number down from 1 million down to half that. Of course, if you arrest that many people, $1 billion a year, $1.5 billion a year won't cover it, because you're going to have to build many more new and massive prisons. Maybe show how really serious they are. How about stiffening the penalties for even minor possession to mandatory jail time? So why aren't they proposing that? The fact is, there is no way, not even here in Pennsylvania, that people would ever let that happen. No way. If they think that people are taking to the streets now, wait to see what would happen if they tried that. We're already sick of it. Pennsylvania prison populations have increased 500% since 1980. Some pundits have said that PA is in no mood to relax marijuana laws. Well, guess what? They're in no mood to shell out hundreds of millions of dollars more a year on an escalation or even maintenance of such a drastically failed policy, a drastically failed and destructive policy that is not only wrong, cruel, and immoral, but blatantly stupid as well. The status quo simply cannot be maintained, and change is coming, so obviously coming that it can be seen by all, even those who oppose it. If we do nothing and only maintain the status quo over the next 10 years, 250,000 Pennsylvanians will have their lives ruined or severely interrupted by arrests, while more than 1 million people a year continue to keep an underground, chaotic, unregulated market controlled in many cases by street thugs, criminal gangs, and large drug cartels going. How could that possibly be better than a legal market with common sense government regulations controlled by Pennsylvania businessmen? How? Meanwhile, they're kicking in doors, cracking heads, and throwing people in prison and wrecking the lives of 250,000 Pennsylvanians. Over that same decade, the people of Colorado and Washington and probably Oregon and California and several other states will be living free, building their economies, funding schools and other worthwhile essentials, raking in over $1 billion a year in tax revenue in each respective states. Do the citizens of Pennsylvania really support this injustice? My opinion is that when the facts are laid out before them, they will support change. All of this wasted effort has had much tragic results. In addition to the ruined lives, torn apart families, billions down the drain in enforcement, billions lost on tax revenue that could be collected, etc., we are preventing sick people who could legitimately benefit from cannabis. It just is not fair, especially when an astonishing 82% of Pennsylvanians support medical cannabis being legal again in the state, just as it was when many companies and enterprising individuals grew cannabis in PA and made various cannabis extract medicines. Lastly, the same madness that makes the social use of cannabis a crime has led to the ban on agricultural hemp. This crop was grown by virtually all of our early ancestors, including my own, in PA and in every settlement in all corners of the state. Lancaster County alone, between 1720 and 1870, there were over 100 water-powered mills for processing hemp fiber, with dozens more in all the surrounding counties, and could be found in all parts of PA. The original Lancaster County township of Hempfield, just a few miles that way, was named for, quote, the vast quantities of hemp that were raised there. How dumb is it to ban a plant that is non-toxic, non-lethal, renewable resource for paper, plastics, fiberboard, hempcrete, biofuels, and thousands of other products? Our farmers want to grow hemp. Resolutions have been passed in favor of hemp by the Lancaster Farm Bureau, the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, Pennsylvania State Grange, and the Pennsylvania Farmers Union, but the lawmakers are deaf and blind to what's going on. To me, as a former Marine who took a vow to uphold the Constitution settles the matter. Cannabis and hemp prohibition is illegal and a constitutional breach, even against our Pennsylvania state constitution. What do the people of Pennsylvania think? What do the polls tell us? Where does Pennsylvania stand on this issue? The national polls show that for the first time, the majority of Americans support re-legalization of cannabis. The people of Pennsylvania are no different. At least 82% of Pennsylvanians support medical cannabis, as revealed by a poll done several months ago by Terry Madonna of F&M. A recent poll last week, conducted by Muhlenberg College and commissioned by the Allentown Morning Call, reveals that while 40% of Pennsylvanians oppose cannabis legalization, an astonishing 57% of Pennsylvanians would not oppose full legalization of cannabis in the Keystone State. A few weeks ago, 1 week before 420 to be precise, the Lancaster Intelligential Journal published the results of its two-day people poll. They asked the question, should PA legalize marijuana? Out of 648 people responding, the answer came back that 56% of the people in Lancaster County support legalizing cannabis. Although support for industrial hemp is usually not asked in Pennsylvania polls, Lancaster Intel did ask its readers in 1998, and as expected, 88% of the readers support hemp. Same would be true today, of course. Hemp is a no-brainer and supported by virtually everyone. I want to tell you something. Change is coming to Pennsylvania. For the first time in our lifetimes. For the first time in our lifetimes, legislation has been introduced in PA to fully legalize cannabis. It was introduced by Senator Dalen Leach, and it's called Senate Bill 528. It will allow us each to grow up to 6 plants. and allows for the non-monetary transfer of up to an ounce of cannabis to friends and bars employers from punishing workers for off-the-job cannabis use. I'm on a mission to raise knowledge, awareness, and support for Senator Leach's proposal, and this is just the beginning. We hope to do this again in Lancaster a time or two before the fall. At rallies in York and Reading, plus many more lectures, debates, town hall style forums, and other venues around the state. I hope